Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank, number 34. On today's episode, I finish off my conversation with my friend Paul Morrissey. Paul and I were talking about his college basketball career before we got into the discussion of his short-lived and doomed sports journalism career. He was a news guy. He did the sports on local news, and by local I mean local. I mean inbred local. By the way, our team in the Comedians Basketball League lost. Sean Kemp's kid lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Rick Glassmans. We got blown out. I managed to miss all rim on a layup attempt, my only shot for the game. Very embarrassing. I'm horribly out of shape. But anyway, when we got into the discussion, we were midway through talking about his offer to play for the Washington Generals, which is the team that always plays the Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah, we're in the middle of talking to that, so we pick up mid-conversation. My Storyteller show is Wednesday, December 7th, 2011, at the the Hollywood Improv. It's $5. It's a great show. Mark Maron is doing it. Steve Renazzisi from the League, John Reap, Kevin Christie, the guy who makes those rad posters, and we got a very special celebrity is going to be there that I can't say who because they're a celebrity, and we have to protect their draw. So, but it should be. It's great. It's a great comic. You guys will love it. So be there, December 7th, and that's it, everybody. My hunt for the edibles is Saturday, December 3rd at the Palms in Las Vegas. It's where I just have a scavenger hunt for marijuana edibles. If you have friends that are going to the fights, please tell them. If you have cops that are going to the fights, please do not tell them. That's it. Here we go with Paul Morrissey picking up mid-conversation about his offer to play for the Washington Generals. Ari Shaffir Skeptic Tank number 34. The Sports Machine kicks off now.
So then, so either one of those options, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I was still interested in like maybe the sports stuff. And then I had a lead on like an internship with the Phoenix Suns.
Okay, to do what? Whatever?
Yeah, just whatever. I was like, oh, I just want to be involved. Like, there's a guy who went to Cortland that was like, he was like the GM of the Milwaukee Bucks or something, and I was like, tried to get in with that, and then just for some reason it worked with the Suns. And
I'm going to get some gummy bears because this is going to be a good story.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to change something. But keep going.
So I get out to Phoenix, and so the Phoenix Suns thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like as 100% as it was when I left. And the guy's like,
people are like, no problem, I'll get you a job. And
he
then
was
you're
just like, I thought you were going to be here like next month or something. I was like, no, I'm like here now. And
no, well, I'm not here the next month.
And it was so weird. It turned out, and this is like when you just believe that everything happens for a reason. It was like a guy that was like a high school teacher of mine. His son-in-law was like a TV news anchor in Phoenix. And he was just like, hey, I knew Paul used to like work at this station here. Does he want to do an internship at the Fox station in Phoenix? Like, just to ask my dad that. And it was just so random.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. And then like the next day I called the guy. He's like, yeah, come on down. And then
you
like,
got an internship just like that?
They offered me an internship like that next day.
There's no way. Do you want some of these?
Oh, no, sorry.
You're staring at them like so interested. I didn't think you did.
It just looks like they're very old and melted. Like it's been a doorstop.
Oh, they're not. It's just a giant bag I just bought recently. And now I'm tasked with like finishing it. It's like a 40-pound bag.
So yeah, then I end up getting like an internship with Fox Sports, like the Fox station in Phoenix. So I covered the first season of the WNBA.
What do you mean covered? To an intern?
Well, yeah, I mean that's the stuff that you cover. You just bring a camera around or help the guys. Like I wasn't the actual reporter. No, I was just behind the scenes guy. But like so. But you're covering
the first year of the WNBA?
Yeah, Phoenix Mercury.
Wow. That was the only year they got a lot of press.
Cheryl Miller and
Cheryl Miller has a little brother?
and then so yeah, that was the summer. And basically what you do when you get into TV is like you're learning these skills, but then you have to make these it's basically like a tape, just like stand-up. Like you gotta get
a reel?
Yourself doing 5 minutes of like a fake broadcast, basically.
Like while you're setting up?
Well, you just ask these people like during their off time or whatever like that. Like, hey, can I do like a fake
And that's the internship process.
Like it's kind of a demo tape. Well, during that process, like they're supposed to teach you like how to edit and
it's
stuff
like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But you're just doing a lot of busy work too.
And so then when they're like, all right, we already did our interviews. We're not going to do anything until the end of the game. And so you're like, hey, do you mind if in the third quarter if I go interview a fan? Just myself.
Yeah, or I did like a fake hey, the first season of the Phoenix Mercury, like blah blah blah. Like, and I was really bad. Like I still have like kind of a garble mouth sometimes, so I really worked hard at
mush mouth.
My broadcast skills,
enunciations.
Yeah.
I have that bad. It's probably a great idea that I eat gummy bears on on an audio thing while I have mush mouth already. Go ahead.
So then I get this tape of me doing like a horrible sportscast. I was really bad at that point.
Like a whole sportscast?
Yeah, you just have like well tonight the Phoenix Suns face blah blah blah, and then just use one of their tapes. But you're like actually on a set of a real station and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. So it looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay.
It looks like you know what you're doing. And which I still didn't really. They still didn't really let me use the camera that much or anything. Like I just know how to push record and whatever.
You sort of set it up. You're like, what's the angle? And like, I don't know. What kind of lens is on there? I don't know whatever's on there.
So, but I learned enough, and just being around that was interesting, you know. And so at the end of the internship, you basically have all these tapes that you're just gonna send to stations, you know, because it's harder than getting an acting job, because if you really do the math, there's basically 200 markets in the United States, and there's 3 stations in each market, maybe.
Yeah.
So 200 times 3, and maybe 2 sports guys. So there's less than like 2,000 people in the whole country doing that job.
So if you're like a Wolf, what's his name? Who's that big guy that used?
Wolf Blitzer.
Not Wolf Blitzer. Who was that guy that said, let's go to the videotape?
Oh, George Michael?
Oh, that was George Michael. But who was the other guy that started before him? Both DC guys.
Oh. Huh. I don't know.
So let's just say George Michael, though. If you're George Michael, to stand out like that and become a national guy, wow, you're like, that's the most success you can get.
Anything network, especially before ESPN. That's like a huge deal. And even all those guys, like if you're top 20 market, that guy in Phoenix is making he's making
He just
6
died,
figures
George Michael,
easy.
right?
Yeah, a few years ago.
Yeah, I think Wilbon wrote an article about him, and I cried when I read it.
Really?
Yeah, that's how ingrained he was in DC sports. Like, he was the guy on Sunday night. You watch the George Michael Sports Machine.
Yeah, you used to not get to see any of those like videos that you see on YouTube or anything that ESPN.
Yeah, there was no
would put
YouTube.
on. Like you just see the
Plays of the
local
week.
high school people and maybe some NBA stuff. But yeah,
he would give it all to you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
The craziness.
And even at that point, like you know, I was super interested in like video. Like I liked we would make highlight films of our basketball games in high school, and like
I'm going to do that for the Comedy Store softball team.
What's that? Yeah, and it was.
I was like, why is nobody setting up a camera and making a sweet highlight reel? We have like 2 good catches a game.
Right, and just get some.
Could have Madonia shattering his leg.
Bad '90s music behind it. Final countdown. So then, so you just basically you got a bunch of these tapes, and you're aiming for. Like, it would probably be pretty easy to get, like, a behind-the-scenes job, like, as an editor or maybe a cameraman or, like, some kind of, like, late-night producer.
That'd be cool.
But to be an actual, like, guy on the air is a huge long shot.
Yeah.
Even if you want to go to Montana, there's still a guy.
Kind of like being a working comedian.
What's that?
Kind of like being a working comedian.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a pretty long shot.
And it was
probably even longer because there's a finite amount of spaces available for those guys.
Right.
Comics are unlimited. If everybody want to be a comic,
to get a legitimate job. So that's what so I just drove around. So you're basically aiming like maybe the last 70 smallest markets.
Phoenix has 8 million people in it.
Yeah, Phoenix was a huge market. They were like 17 at that point. So there's no way I'm getting a job there.
Right.
So like there was
the big markets. Those are the jobs that pay better.
Yeah, and those are experienced. Yeah. Okay. And it is a very, like, TV is a very, like, somebody was talking about, like, it's like being an Army brat. Like, I think TV and radio are both like that. Like, it's like, all right, you're going to start in Reno, and then you're going to work your way up to Sacramento, and then you're going to move to Las Vegas.
Like, that's the path.
Yeah, so you're just in these different markets for a couple years getting experience, you know, like when you ever see, like, the Howard Stern.
There's guys that come on all the time. It's, I guess, less in L.A. because that's a big market. But I was trying to come on, go for a couple years, then leave, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got fired or something.
Right.
But really, they just moved on. They got a better job somewhere else,
Or yeah,
more responsibility.
yeah, and it's just like, and it's very seldom that somebody just stays in like one of those, little bitty markets or.
That was the awesome about George Michael.
Yeah.
He stayed right there for decades.
And that was like his own national show too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't have to like go anywhere else to do it.
Yeah, he could stay right there.
And he had the machine right
And he had
there.
the machine. You can't transfer the machine. The machine was the size of my whole living room. It was just a gigantic Doctor Who style, like, massive compartment in the middle of his. He would just touch a giant button, and then a video would pop up.
Can't have the Ari comedy machine. Is that what we're just watching on your TV? You're just pushing buttons.
Yeah, it wasn't even a special. It was just didn't do anything. The machine. It was just this thing that looked like a machine. It would just have buttons for no reason.
Yeah, he had bad like track and field buttons.
Oh yeah.
So then you just got these tapes. So I'm sending tapes to like Yuma, Arizona, and like Fresno,
To just try to find
and
some sort of job.
Bakersfield. Like those are like within the realm of what.
Like they have their own
job.
local news in Bakersfield. Or
Yeah,
Yuma?
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So those are like those markets that you hear about. But still, like I'm still like, I'm thousands
Somebody
of miles
just left
from
there.
home.
They need a new guy.
I just have my car and my stuff, and I'm just driving around until I find a job, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
So it's like kind of crazy that I was just like,
How old were you? 22?
22, yeah.
Wow.
So just to have that kind of like,
That's an amazing
I'll
freedom that
just do
you
it.
give up at some age.
and it was so weird. Like I remember the first night I went to Vegas.
Could you do that now?
I don't think so.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
I could then.
I mean, I
The
don't know
idea
if
of
it's
staying in a
being dumb
hostel
or
now
having
is like,
the confidence.
It's not hostile with other people. No. Yeah, at some point you just get. Maybe it's because you were dumb back then too. Yeah, and I would just And
it did happen super. Like it was like I drove to Vegas the first night from Phoenix because I remember the hotel rooms were like $22. Like on a Monday night, you could stay at like the Riviera for like $22 or
Wow.
something. And this was like 90.
the only negative is you have to stay at the Riviera.
Yeah, yeah. But still, at that point, I'm like a room.
Did you ever do that room when it was a room?
Yeah, yeah.
So hellish.
Oh, so bad.
A week. I paid $1,000. So much money.
And everyone always tell you like,
You got to eat free for the whole week.
by the fourth day, you'll want to jump out the window. I was like, no, it's Vegas. Like, I that's what I dreamed of, like making $1,000 and doing 2 shows a night.
Yeah.
But then, like Thursday, you're like, holy shit, I
I'm
gotta
so
get out
bored.
of here. I'm gonna go to McDonald's and write. Like, I gotta get out of this building.
Get out of because you eat in the dungeon, you eat with the employees. You never have to leave the Riviera, the shitty Riviera.
Yeah, if I have to
Little
see the
old
people
people.
that are losing their life savings here.
Me and Renazisa got banned from there.
Really?
Yeah, we still don't know what it was. Me, Renazisa, and Caparola went together.
No idea.
And then the year after was like, hey, let's do that again. That was a really fun time. Caparola just started headlining. I think Renazisi just gotten punked or something. So it was like, I opened. It was just fun. We were all buddy. We played poker all night long, like every night. And then the year, they're like, they say Cap can do it, but you and Ari aren't welcome.
Was it that?
We cannot figure out what it was.
Isn't it the dude from The Sopranos? Is like the guy that's like
Yeah.
calls all the shots?
But not Pitcock. What was his name?
Sharippa?
Steve Sharippa, yeah. But he wasn't even there anymore. He was just collecting a paycheck.
Right.
I heard that guy, he collected a paycheck for booking that room even after he was on The Sopranos.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
like, fuck it, why give up a good job? It's $100 a week.
Well, supposedly he still owed the room or something, or owned it, or.
Oh, really? I just
Yeah.
thought he was the booker for them.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but the only thing I figured out is Renazisi made Xeroxes of the free drink tickets they give you. Mm-hmm. They give you 2 free drink tickets. And Harris Pete, the old Dory, I got the idea. I was like, just Xerox that shit. And then you have drinks all over the casino for free the whole week. And so we're like, okay. So Steve just made like a book of them.
All right. So
And
I
he was
just
like-
figured out why he got banned.
No, that's why Steve would get banned. But why me? I didn't do them. That was him.
Aiding and abetting.
What?
Aiding and abetting. Isn't that a crime?
But then Caparola should have gotten banned too.
Oh, what he was
It's not like
probably.
he had any credits.
Was
didn't
he
have any
funnier than
credits.
you guys at that point?
Yep. Sure was. That might have come into play a little bit.
So counterfeiting drink tickets would get you banned?
I also was like 1 minute late to one of the shows. It might have been individual reasons. I got one there. Oh, I got off stage a minute late, and they were like, they looked at their clock, like, what does this say? And I was like, 8:17. They're like, what time are you supposed to get off? I'm like, 8:15. I was like, oh, this is a real problem. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
we expect you on at 8 o'clock even and off at 8:15 even. We don't care how you're doing. Middle of a joke.
Yeah.
And then I told, all right, next comic up.
And it's a union thing, like that's why. Like even if Seinfeld was there, like keep it at 35.
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
We're for the casino.
And it was so bad. Like the people that were working there at that point, like, you know, I'd done like a couple TV spots. I wasn't like a huge deal, but I was like, I was emceeing. Yeah. And the feature was a guy who was just an impressionist.
Everybody that went had this experience when they went for the first time. They're like, they didn't know me, so I had to open. And the guy who went on last was like this old, like he'd been doing comedy forever, kind of shitty. And the middle guy was super shitty. Mm-hmm. He was always super shitty in the middle. And they've just been there for 20 years.
But the maddening thing is, like, you know, even impressions are kind of hacky. Like, there's guys that do a good job. But this guy, all he did is impressions, like, with no jokes. So he was just an impressionist, which they don't really have those kind of guys anymore.
No. You have to do jokes with the
So, like, he's doing just impressions, so, and then...
Hi, I'm Tom Cruise. This is what I sound like.
Yeah.
I'm Tom Cruise.
Or Ray Romano or something like that.
Or whoever that's supposed to sound
and
like.
And then the headliner guy was, like, a big hack, too. And so they're kind of arguing about, like, who can do the crocodile hunter, and, like, because they're doing the same 6 impressions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, what the fuck am I doing here? And I just remember the impressionist guy, like, he's doing Al Pacino. So you're just wondering where the hoo-ha thing is going to come in.
That was everybody's impression. Hoo-ha.
And I just remember this made me laugh, like, hysterically every single time. Like, his closer was, like,
where's it going to be?
The Al Pacino cooking show. And he was just like, you cook with chocolate and Kaluha. And that was like... And
that's where he threw it in?
That was like the closing thing. I was like, this is so fucking bad that it's genius. Like, it's making me laugh every single time.
Like Neil Hamburger bit or something. Like, are you intentionally making this bad?
So, yeah. So that was the first night. So I stayed at the Riviera, and then the next night I think I go to Fresno, and I met with like 2 stations, and then I drive to Redding, California. And they didn't have any jobs advertised, but I dropped off a tape. And I met with the news director. Seemed like a really cool dude. And
how many job like applications must they get?
Well, the thing, like, even back then, it was like
it's not like a waitressing job where everyone just drops off resumes and whatever.
It's like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, here's my thing. If anything opens up, let me know, because they don't have openings.
I'm desperate and I need a job horribly.
Like, if you live in town,
negotiating tactic.
Yeah, if you live in town or something, they'll like. But they get all these free interns, like, and there's people, like, even when I was working there was guys that, like, would have done that job for free. Like, they just wanted to do it.
Yeah, I bet.
So they can pay you nothing, and they pretty much do. Like
just like comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we'd work for free.
The more
how many people in the audience? Yeah. Over 100? Like, if I could pay you $5 to get that spot,
right,
I would have at certain points.
Yeah. So it was, but at that point, you just want a job. So they offered me, they're like, hey, we don't have a sports job per se, but we have this job in our bureau in Chico that you can cover sports for the weekend, and then you have to do a couple days of news reporting. And it was like $20 a week, or 20 hours a week at $5 an hour.
Wow.
So I was like, insane,
wow.
But I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
For 100?
It was, yeah, pretty much. But that was when I think I found, like, a studio apartment in Chico for $395 or something. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm not.
You can make your rent?
Not quite making it.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's $100 a week.
Yeah. So it was insane. It was an insane thing to do. But this was the even funnier part.
It's got to be sports and regular?
Yeah, they kind of, like, blended that in. And the funny part was I had, like, the demo tape, and they're just watching that, and they're not even interested in, like, so do you know how to work a camera? And I was like, sure, yeah.
And you still didn't know?
No, I didn't know.
And they wanted you to do that stuff, too.
What's that?
They're like, we don't have a guy that's going to run.
Because that's what they want, is, like, those little markets. Like, in Phoenix, they have a guy that just is the cameraman. But if you're a reporter there, like, you gotta shoot your own video. You gotta edit your own video. You gotta, like, do the report. Like, they call it a one-man band. Like, you gotta know how to do everything. So for those kind of things, it's really a great experience, because you learn how to do everything, like, from the ground up. Like, you learn how to fix cameras. You learn how to fix editing equipment. Yeah. Fix a copier.
And so you learned it all while you were doing it?
Yeah, so I
cool.
get this job in the bureau, which is like
What is it? What city?
Chico.
The Chico Bureau. This sounds like the worst episode of the X-Files of all time.
And it
I got
is.
to check in with the Chico Bureau.
And it was like the setup of it was, so Reading is the main station with all the big studio and all that stuff, and there's a sign of professionalism. It's like ABC, it's like legitimate station, but the bureau is like it's a half a house, like it's a one-level house. There's a cardboard Channel 7 in the window. There's a guy he's a salesman. He sells like computer spots.
Yeah.
But he's like, I find out he's like selling computer equipment like on the side.
Really?
So, like,
from the office?
Yeah. And we got no boss. And the only other guy in that bureau is that there's a news report, full-time guy. So basically, and he's like 50. And I find out that he's living in the bureau. Like.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's like a house.
Just upstairs somewhere?
No, there's no upstairs, man.
Oh my God.
There's 2 rooms. The left room is our desks, and I kind of noticed that his stuff is kind of everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then in the other one, it's like it's a studio. Like there's lights and a camera and like a background, but it's just like where like Osama bin Laden would have like recorded his like it's just professional enough to like get the job done, but like. And so then I see in the back room, there's like the bathroom and a couch and like everything else this guy owns. Like
he just said, "Fuck it, why don't I just move in here?"
Well, I think he was kind of like didn't think I would be able to tell, and then he's like, I'm just having a rough patch or whatever. I'm just gonna be staying here for a little while.
Wow, he fully admitted it.
And then it was the same thing. It was like this, like I don't want to make any waves. This is my first day here. Like, what am I? I'm like, hey, that's cool with me, I guess.
Okay.
And so. But then you don't realize, like, you're trying to work, and, like, this guy's showering
like, you
and
should have reported
shaving
it up.
and
But you're
stuff.
like, okay.
And so then not only does he not have a house, he doesn't have
shaving in the back while you're like, dude, we're trying to work.
And that's that one-man show that I'm doing, the Unprofessional. That's my first live report was done while he was, like, sleeping on the couch slightly to the left of the camera. Like,
really?
My first, like, I'm excited, but there's a homeless guy, like, on the couch.
Right
like,
next
sleeping.
to you.
Yeah.
Is any of this stuff online?
There's one, like, promotional video that has a few of the things on there.
Promotional video for what? Of you?
Just for the show, because I'm doing the one-person show in
your show.
Montreal and Toronto, and we've done it in Hollywood a few times. But yeah.
You doing where? Montreal and Toronto?
Yep.
Where are you doing Montreal? St. Catherine Theater?
I think it's the Montreal Improv Theater the first time, and then the Comedy Bar in Toronto this time. But I'm doing like stand-up and everything there too. I'm doing the Comedy Nest and.
Oh, and then also your show?
Yeah. So it's gonna be like a crazy few weeks, but it's like a whole another hour of. It's just like how you have all these kind of stories. And then this guy was like, hey, those are great stories. It'd be great if you ever had the video. I was like, I do. I got it somewhere.
Yeah.
So we dug up all these, like, horrible, like, I used to do these, stories about chili cook-offs and
really? Like
yo-yo
local?
festivals. And
it's all just time fillers.
Well, no, they're real stories for there. And then, that's the whole problem is they're like, hey, we need 4 stories.
When you say that, I immediately assume like, what, just for campy factor? Or like, you're not going to really, who would ever want to know about that? And you're like, no, these people want to know.
Yeah, that's what they said. We need 4 stories. I was like, we're in Chico. Like, nothing's going to happen here today. I can already tell you that. Unless I, like, run my car into a building or something.
The new premiere of the new movie.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing that's on the clip is I was just driving around and Titanic was just opening, so there's a big line around, so I just get out and I start interviewing people.
Like that? Fuck it, we may as well get something.
Yeah, and everyone's all gaga. There's this old lady's like, I saw it yesterday, I'm going to see it today, I see it tomorrow. And I was just like, the boat sinks, right?
Did you really say that?
Yeah, like on TV news. And then the news director's like, yeah, you can't pick on the people that are watching the station. That's not really the way that we do things here.
He's like, I get it, badass, but
it's like, no. there's a time there was like I had to just go to like a park where there was a shooting the night before, and like all these guys that look like they did the shooting, like are like, hey, put away that camera. I was like, okay, I'll see you later.
Really?
Yeah. And
you would just bolt.
And all the news people were like, no, you got to cover that story. Like, I was like, no, I don't. Like, why? I don't
like,
care.
I'm a human being. I don't give a fuck. I know there's no journalistic integrity here when I don't give a fuck.
I'm not Anderson Cooper. I want to be Bob Uecker.
Yeah, those people are like. That was your dream, is to be a Sports Center anchor?
Yeah, I mean that's what. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was some stuff that was like super interesting, like news-wise, to cover, like you know. But most of the stuff was like they just tried to make it more important than it was. Like there's that. I did like they were like, oh, this is like a really in-depth story about recycling. And there's a big Hollywood actor coming in to, like, you know,
Would that be big
wants
news?
to save the planet. Yeah. And so I'm sent to cover the story, and it ends up being that Robert Hayes guy.
Who's
who
that?
played Stryker on Airplane. Remember that movie,
Oh,
Airplane?
yeah.
Who was, like, hilarious and super deadpan.
Yeah.
And he was just, like, doing
Who's the striker, the main dude?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He's like, surely you can't be serious.
I have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
He just drink out of the wrong side of the glass.
So, like, he's, like, answering questions to these people, like, just completely fucking with him. And everyone's taking it serious. So then I start asking him, like...
He's
you know,
fucking with the
yeah,
reporters?
he's just like... They're like, when did saving the planet become your number one cause? And he's just like, well, life is important. Reasons are important. People are important. Just like that guy driving the FedEx truck. He's just working, living with reasons. Like, he's just saying, like, gibberish, you know? He's like,
Really?
nothing important, but he's still deadpan.
What?
So then I'm like, you know, is this I understand the production budget is in the millions. Like, just completely messing with him. He's like, yeah, we've got, you know, Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, like, all this kind of stuff. And so we're just going back and forth. And I end up, like, putting clips from an airplane in this news story, which is completely illegal. Like, you can't just put, like, clips from
You need the
movies
rights.
on broadcast
Yeah.
news. So I'm like, I'm
Like,
still
it'll
like,
be cool. It'll be better.
yeah. And so, yeah, it was just that thing. I was like, I was pretty bad at it, but I was like, it was with good intentions.
And how long did you stay there?
So this is the thing. So I stayed there for a little over a year, and but me and that Rick guy just weren't getting along. Like, just him living there and, like, breaking everything was horrible. So I'm like, I can't work with this fucking guy anymore.
Yeah.
And they offered me a full-time job at the Bureau. And I was like, no, I don't want
Well,
it.
someone's living there right now, so
Yeah.
it's not really open.
And so I finally told him that, and then we got in, like, another fight. Like, Rick lost his shit.
You and Rickster?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so they had to call the news director down, and they're just like, well, you guys obviously can't work together. And so I'm thinking I'm getting fired.
Yeah.
And if he's getting fired, he's going to kill me, because this is a guy that's, like, on his last.
Oh, yeah. He's already living there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then he ends up saying, like, well, I mean, the one thing that happened was the sports anchor just left this morning, so I guess we can just give you that job, and you can move
So
to
there
Reading.
was a sports anchor.
There was at the station, but it was a job that was taken.
Oh, so they didn't have
And
any.
so
Okay.
when all this shit went down, that guy like left, like, out of the blue, and so they're like, well, this
Over that?
No, he just left, like, on his own. Like, this is
Okay.
in Reading. And so while me and Rick are arguing, and he's deciding which one of us to fire, he's like, well, I guess I can just give you the sports anchor job.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, do that. That'll work out for everyone.
And so I'm like, yeah, I just failed upwards, man. Like, that was this. So I end up getting the sports anchor
Just because you got in a
job.
fight with Rick?
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was like, so then I'm doing, you know, I'm an official guy. Like, I got a clothing allowance from JCPenney.
Really? Because you have to
And,
look sharp?
Well, you have to wear a suit at least. So I still wore shorts and stuff, but I just had, like, the half suit.
Really?
Because we got $250, which isn't enough.
So you just wear the top?
Yeah.
That's a real thing?
Yeah.
Didn't they used to do it on
absolutely.
sports night?
Maybe they did, but yeah, that's a real thing. Because I'm
Wow.
not wearing a suit to fucking work ever. So.
Okay. You're like, that's just not going to happen.
So, yeah, and so I did the 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock sportscast on Saturday and Sunday, and I had my contract was $16,500 a year. I was under contract for minimum wage,
16,500?
and this is 1990.
You were under contract
Yeah.
for minimum wage.
So if ESPN in theory offered me a job for $100,000, I couldn't take
You'd
it.
be like, at this moment, I'm under contract.
And that's the one thing that was giving me a glimmer of hope was Rich Eisen had just left from our station and went to ESPN like the year before I.
Oh,
I
so
was
you're
there.
like, that's a thing that might.
So I'm like, all right,
might
this
happen.
can happen, and but it was fun. It was a great experience, man. It was like, but then you just learn that, like, wow, I'm developing opinions, and I'm kind of I have a sense of humor, and I'm making this kind of entertaining. but that's not what they want on TV news at all. They want a guy that just reads the news and is
even sports.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that.
Wow. Do they want you to do it with any personality?
Not really. Like, because it's got to be their sense of humor, you know?
Right,
and
which
it
is
can't
lame.
be mean-spirited at all. So, like...
I saw Seth Rogen. Is that his name? Who's the...
Myers?
No, that's a broadcaster here, local.
Oh,
something.
yeah, you were talking about that
Yeah.
guy. Something Rogan.
Yeah. Maybe Seth Rogen. I don't know what it is. Nah, it's not Seth. Whatever it is. But, yeah, he just said something about their barbecue that the main newscasters were having. Mm-hmm. And I was like... he was making some lame old person joke, and I'm like, oh, you're just an old rich person.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just a guy who probably has a pool in his, 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
I don't relate to you at all.
Right, yeah. It's like, there's always, the charming, kind of old weather person.
Uh-huh.
And, that. But it's hard to be, if you're an anchor, you got to be, that was the whole thing is, we had all these anchors that wanted to be serious, but they were just boobs. You know, they would try.
How many of those people did you have? Just good looking?
There was all the women are good looking and that's all they care about. A lot of them in those smaller
just
markets.
Be able to read and
hey,
look well.
look
good.
I hope my makeup's good for this murder story. There's no I would be devastated if I saw a murder scene. But
There's
they're
more
just
blush.
Hey, I just want to look good on this. It's for my tape.
Wow.
And,
Women.
So there's guys like that too, of course. You gotta have their hair right.
I guess it's just vanity.
And so there's a guy. I remember this used to be a big premise for jokes, but it was completely true back then. Was they'd have to do all these cheesy transitions, And I remember there was one time they did JFK Jr. just died, so they're showing a montage of all the stuff he did, and one of the female anchor was when you see all the stuff he's working toward, you just have to ask yourself, what if? And then the male anchor goes, yeah, and what if this rain continues? He goes, Brian will have that forecast coming up next in weather.
I never noticed the transitions.
And it
but
was
they do that, don't they?
Oh, dude.
They do those transitions all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I never noticed that.
And it's
They're the lamest.
And that's the thing is
Why don't they just go, very sad, very sad. Well, let's go to weather.
They should, the guys who know what they're doing do.
Just do that.
But you have somebody in your ear saying, we got 5 seconds, throw it to weather, throw it to weather. That's what those people are yelling in your earpiece.
They're just looking for a way to get out of it.
Because that's what they would tell me, hey, you're going long, or we don't have this tape.
Oh.
Fill 2 minutes.
Why wouldn't you have a tape? Why would you bring something up without a tape?
That's what I mean. No, that
kind
of shit happens all the time, because you got a 19-year-old guy.
He's supposed to bring it. He's not here yet.
And he can't find the tape.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we don't have the tape.
So they actually have to hustle and move around and stuff.
And it's live TV. So,
wow.
that prepared me for anything, more than stand-up. Just, hey, you got to...
That's live TV every night.
You got to fill time.
That was 5 days a week?
Well, the job was 5 days a week. But, yeah, I did anchored all the newscast on Saturdays and Sundays. So that was kind of my playhouse, because it was still the weekends and there's no bosses there, so I'm a East Coast sports fan, so
yeah.
I'm a Yankees fan and a New York Giants fan.
Would you write your copy?
Yeah, I had to do everything.
Would you cover
man.
just those teams?
I would cover my favorite teams. And
fucking New Yorkers, you're always so fucking egocentric. Everything about New York has to be the most important thing.
But I do remember one year the Yankees weren't in the World Series. I was just showing the scores. I didn't care. I was such a.
You're it's 42.
I'm very bipartisan. I appreciate a good game and I appreciate just sports now. But back then I was still a real fan. So I was just yeah, I would totally have my favorites and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous looking back on it now. It's wasn't it the Larry David sketch supposedly he wrote for Saturday Night Live was the weatherman who only did the weather where his family lived. That's kind of what it was. It was I'm only doing the teams that I care about.
And they wouldn't bother you. They'd be all right, whatever, who cares?
Well, it was just under the radar enough, and I wasn't making enough waves, and I was basically the third string sports guy.
Did you have any fans or anything that people just sort of keyed into that fun you're sounding like you're having?
You know what? It's really tough. Even when I started doing stand-up, it's oh, it's that fucking news guy. It's hard to lose that moniker because it's you none of those guys are funny. You know what I mean? It's
and how come they hired you? They didn't care if you look good. No offense, but you know what I mean.
Hey, come on, man.
Sorry.
I have boyish charm.
I'm gonna get for one of my podcasts. I'm gonna talk to Jeff Dye and maybe Jeff Keith too about
Yeah.
being beautiful boys, just beautiful,
Have
beautiful
girl
men.
faces.
Yeah, they're just stunning. Everyone just like swoons over them, but like we're not that, so it's very clear. Where nobody looks at us and be like, "You should be a news anchor. You should be sports anchor, television." Yeah, behind the desk.
Well, I guess that's the goal of everything I did was just to prove people wrong. I guess is like,
Yeah.
well, why not? I got to be better looking than people in Reading. You know, it's like I'm not an LA sports anchor, but I'm not you know.
You're like, I'm a Reading 6, at least.
But I think you know, that was the thing is like and that's what there's no way I would have done comedy if I hadn't done the TV stuff first.
Just because it gave you experience, like thinking on the fly.
And confidence in
yeah.
speaking in front of people, and oh man, I mean, you can't there's a parade outside. But
There's something about just experience where it does give you a confidence.
Yeah, I mean,
Where it's like, whatever, it'll be fine. I'll just go on stage.
and to have confidence at all, and just like, and not being afraid to fail. And I know that sounds like super cheesy, but like people do get to the point where they only want to do this stuff that they're good at, and they don't want to look bad doing anything. And it's just like you really have to just have no fear with most stuff. Because even now, somebody's like, "Hey, do you want to go snowboarding?" I've never been snowboarding. Let's try it. You know, let's do it. Let's, you know, you can't be.
It's fun to tackle some of those things because your natural inclination is just be like, no, no, that's not something I do.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm
It's like, try some shit.
yeah, except for food. That's my only thing. 'Cause
You
I
don't
have all
try-
the
oh, that's
food
right.
stuff.
What, you don't eat? You only eat eggs and bacon?
I've never had eggs in my life.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had coffee.
Why not?
It's like texture and smell, I think.
Coffee, I don't like coffee. I don't like the taste of it.
There's a long list of things like that. That might be a TV show. It's just me trying
Different
normal
foods you've never
foods for
had.
the first time.
What about cake? You ever have cake?
What's that?
You ever have cake?
Cake? Are you serious?
Oh, that's
Come
got
on.
eggs in it.
Well,
No, you had to have eaten stuff with eggs in it.
oh, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I'm just saying like an omelet or scrambled eggs or
You've not had it.
no. Even
How?
like
Why?
salmon, like just.
Salmon's not an egg, by the way.
No, but I'm saying stuff like that. Like,
Oh, okay.
like there's just random like things that I've just never eaten. Like I just started eating
Are you
rice.
grossed out by them?
Yeah, I think so. Like guacamole. I've never eaten guacamole.
Why are you grossed out by guacamole?
It's green and mushy.
Okay. Well,
None
have
of
you
it
not-
makes sense. I mean, there's no
Oh, you're fucked up, huh?
there's no rhyme or reason to it. But it's not like, oh, I'm doing this for political reasons or for I'm a vegetarian. It's like, no, I just don't
Until
like.
the occupation of Rwanda has ended, I will not eat eggs. I, Paul Morrissey, will not eat eggs.
But don't you get in the mode where it's like, you know what? I'm gonna have time to eat one meal today, and I don't want it to be experimental.
Oh, I will. Oh, if I see something on the menu that I've never eaten, like if they had lion burger somewhere, I'd be like, I'm getting that.
You'll do it
Yeah, even if I'm in the mood for something else. If I see something I've never eaten before, I'm like, that's going down my mouth.
because you want to try it, or
I want to have tried it. Yeah, when I drove cross country to get out here. We did it in like 5 days. Me and my soon-to-be roommate. We met up in like Nashville. I came from Maryland. He came from Florida, and then we just caravanned. I would drive over the speed limit, and he would hotbox and smoke pot the whole way. And so he would drive the speed limit, and then I'd find a place up ahead. We'd share a hotel room, and then just keep going. But I stopped in Gore, Oklahoma, to watch Maryland play basketball in the NCAA tournament, and I couldn't find a bar that had CBS, that had a fucking TV on. And I just turn it to CBS; it'll be on. And I finally found this place, and there was some restaurant on a river in Gore, Oklahoma, population of like 150. In their back room, they had it, and I ate frog legs. They had frog legs. I was like, fuck yeah, give me those. And they were so goddamn good.
Yeah.
They were fresh out of the river, fucking behind the restaurant, the little creek or something, and it was just so good.
that's so
But it's
funny.
only because I've never had frog legs before.
Well, I'm
You
trying.
gotta try shit.
I'm trying to be better about that because there's a guy that I went to high school with that's an Iron Chef now. Like he's like a big.
Really?
Like, he lost to Bobby Flay. His name's David Bull. And
Fuck
he's-
Bobby Flay. Put that on the record.
Fuck him. He totally whooped his ass in this show too, and he's like a guy. And I have another buddy that has restaurants in New York, and I was like, this is my dream. When I get famous enough, you'll design the restaurant, and then David will do the menu. And they're both like, well, what are we going to serve? Chicken nuggets? Because they already know, like, yeah, Paul's not eating anything. So I have to break down some berries eventually and try some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. If something's really good, like we went to San Francisco, me and Jimmy Dore, and he's like, I heard that this place Mama's has the best Monte Cristo sandwich ever.
Yeah, then you got to get that.
Yeah, so I did that.
Okay.
But
yeah, that's another thing. If any place is known for something, I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. I at least want to know what I'm talking about if I say it's shitty.
But like sushi, do you eat sushi? Mm-hmm. See, like that stuff.
What are you in fucking 1981? What are you, Archie Bunker from 30 years ago?
I just want my food cooked. I don't know.
I don't like it's just so stupid.
I'm not crotchety about it. I was like, I just don't eat it. I don't know.
So do you eat like raw, like an apple? Would you eat?
Yeah.
That's not cooked.
I know.
You know, in Judaism, in the Torah,
I told you there's no rhyme or reason to it.
There's killing laws for animals you can eat, kosher-eating animals. You have to slice it with a super, super sharp knife between like two bones in your neck, two very specific bones in your neck. And if you don't kill it like that, it's not kosher. You got to throw away the meat or sell it to a non-Jew, piece of shit non-Jew. But there's no killing laws for fish. You can take a fish and just swallow it live. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with a cow. That's how little Jew God thinks of fish. So you don't have to cook them. It's okay. They're just like an apple.
Because it smells like fish?
Yeah, that's the ones that are made in fisheries. Swimming their own shit.
So are we meandering now? Or are we
we're meandering. Let's go back. Let's go back. The meanderings usually happen in the middle, depending on how high I'm getting. Where were we? How did we get back?
Well, I got the anchor job in Reading.
Okay.
So then, it was awesome.
But this is just sports.
Yeah. Well, I had to do 1 day of news. That's how they snuck it into me, and I hated it. I had to work 1 day 9 to 5 as like a regular news guy, and it completely sucked. But everything else was cool. Like I covered the Sacramento Kings when they went from like I was there for Bobby Hurley's last year.
Really?
And Mitch Richmond to like when they got Chris Webber and Jason Williams. And
I fucking hate they got Chris Webber. The Bullets traded him because he smoked pot.
Yeah.
That's why they traded him. Because Abe Pullen was such a backwards fucking owner, and Wes Unseld had the longest tenure of any coach in the NBA with 9 seasons of not going to the playoffs. 9 straight seasons.
Changed their name.
Yeah, changed their name because like, well, you know what, it doesn't. And fine, whatever. That's probably the night. But Webber got caught smoking pot. The whole NBA smokes pot.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and they traded him for like nothing.
Right.
And said, Juwan will be our man. Juwan Howard. Good luck, idiot. He's never been the man anywhere.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was the...
Gets me angry.
That was... Because they went from, like, nobody gave a shit about the Kings at all.
So suddenly, like
I could just
contenders.
walk in. Until now, it's like everyone wants to go to these games, and the Maloofs buy the team and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a fun time to be there. And then...
where's Reading? NorCal?
Reading's like an hour and a half. It's probably 2 hours north of Sacramento. But Chico's like an hour. So there was like times where I would go down there from Chico too.
And Sacramento was your hometown sports team, I guess, right? Or were people?
Well, that was a close. Like everyone was either San Francisco or yes.
Okay.
So, and then the Raiders. So I got to like John Gruden just got the Raider job, so I cover like Raiders camp and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So I got to do a lot of fun stuff, but it was still like. You're in Reading. You have to live in Reading. Like it's one of those things where it's like,
how much of my life am I going to mortgage for this?
It's like how many years of your 20s do you want to spend in Reading?
That's what we were talking about before we started doing the podcast. Where it's like, how long are you going to struggle in comedy before you eventually you're a man, buy something for yourself,
right?
Do something. This is you now.
Well,
not you trying to make it. Yeah, how long are you going to try to make it in Reading?
Well,
if there was like a 3-year plan where and when you do 3 years, we're shipping it to New York.
Well, here's the whole...
Then it'd be okay.
The funny thing was, so I started doing stand-up just out of the blue. I came back. I had to fly into Sacramento to get back to, like, Chico or Reading.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why I stopped in, but I stopped into a comedy club. And I'd only been into one comedy club before in my life. Like, that's what...
Really?
I'm from upstate New York. There's no comedy clubs. Like, I was a huge, like... And my friends always ask me about this, like... I love Saturday Night Live. I loved all these comedians, and I have even now I have like a perfect memory of if you play like an Eddie Murphy special or like Sam Kinison from one of those Dangerfield specials.
Yeah.
it'll just start clicking in my head, and I'll know every word. Like
Really?
And I just didn't at that time. I didn't think I was that huge a fan. But then, like, no, you totally liked it way more than everybody else. Like you taped every episode of, Saturday Night Live. You taped every young comedian special. Like
Really?
you were a fanatic. And I was like, I
Young
thought everybody
comedians
liked comedy, or Letterman or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then, so then I realized, like, oh, I'm trying to be funny on these sportscasts. Like, I should be.
Yeah, that's good.
I should try to, like, do the stand-up or at least see it. So I saw, like, I went to the old Cobb's in San Francisco, and I saw, like, Patton Oswalt and Gene Pompa and a bunch of those guys were still around there, and they were pretty funny.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
then Sacramento, there's this open mic night, literally, and I just walked in, and this lady was like, hey, do you want to go up tonight? And I was like, no, I'm just here
to watch
a show. And she's like, well, we're starting, like, a class, so if you want to learn, like, how to do it or something.
And that worked? That pitch worked on somebody?
It did.
Wow.
And it was so random. And the craziest thing was, so it was, like, Monday or Tuesday nights, which I was working the weekend, so I had Monday and Tuesdays off. And so I did stand-up, like, once a week for, like, a year without anybody knowing.
Immediately, you just started.
I didn't tell anybody.
Wait, would you drive to Sacramento?
Yep.
Once a week?
And the woman who
What club
ended
was
up teaching Laughs Unlimited.
Oh, yeah, that's
It's
the one that's, like, in a
one
better
of the old
area of
clubs.
town, right?
Yeah, old Sacramento.
Yeah, Punchline is in a bad area of town.
Yeah, and the woman who was teaching the class, I mean, it sounds lame.
Roseanne Barr?
No. It sounds lame when people talk about classes, but it's like, hey, if you can get a guaranteed show once a week, like, I would do it, you know what I mean? If you're
So
like
would you
in a
do the
little
class
town.
then the open mic?
Yeah, you would do the class. You would, like, practice your stuff before everybody, and then you do the actual show. So you'd kind of
I don't have a problem
through.
with classes. I have a problem with taking those classes. I have a problem with the classes telling their students, like, now you're a professional comedian.
Right,
'cause you graduated. And it's like, you got to do
But this
it.
was
if
period,
you're
like,
fun.
I was like, hey, I have no inclination to, like, make this a career. I just think this will help me be funnier, like, on
can see that.
TV or at least be more camera, since Ari says I'm ugly for a sports anchor.
You're TV ugly.
So
Okay, here's the deal. If you go to a commercial audition and they say, okay, we want your character is going to go on a date with this, is going to be walking to a bar and there's a super hot chick there. Just walk up to her and then she's got all the lines. Are you thinking, like, we're probably going to hit it off? Or are you thinking, I'm the joke here, clearly, that someone so ugly could even date someone so hot?
I'm Edward Norton after some time off, is what. Or
After some time off.
I'm a rock star after their prime.
Yeah, the reuniting tour where they're all too fat to do the same dances.
Somebody
They just
said
kinda
I look
shuffle
like
back
this
and
guy
forth.
from Rush, Alex Lifeson.
Wow, I wouldn't know
I'm
that
like,
name.
oh, but he's like 50.
But not then. Now.
Now, yeah,
Yeah.
you look like him now.
You look like a current Demi Moore.
But yeah, so then, but this woman ended up, like, she was just, like, had a kid and moved to Sacramento for a few years, and she ended up, like, being a writer on the Ellen DeGeneres show and writing for the Academy Awards and
Really?
writing for the Wanda and George Lopez and everything. So, like, everyone that started
So why'd she
with
move
me,
there? She just
she just went. She had a kid and got married and was just up there, kind of raising a kid for a year or two.
Wow.
And so, but everyone that I kind of started with ended up moving to L.A. and, like, becoming a TV writer and stuff. And so,
Who else did you start with?
this guy Jeff Cosgrave, Rick Mitchell, Andrew Norelli was, like, around there.
Okay.
And I knew a lot of, like, the Bay Area guys. Like, I think Ryan Stout I ended up doing a show with up there at some point. And
Did you eventually start going to San Francisco too?
Yeah. I was just like, I'm
At
sure.
some point, you're like comfortable enough, like, hey, can I do this anywhere else in the world?
Yeah,
And they're like, yes.
and I'm sure you got into this too. Like, once I jumped into it, like, I saw every show. Like, I remember seeing Robin Williams, like, show up on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, I just went to a comedy club every night.
Oh, yeah,
Like, I
that's
met,
what I
like,
did here.
Tony Kameen, who was,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
super funny. Like, everybody that came through Sacramento, I'd go see.
That
all
is the
those
cool
guys.
thing of being in one of those towns where you can see top shelf guys only once a week,
Right.
you know, or twice a week. Although San Francisco has more good guys than most places.
And nobody would know, like, who the good people were still. It's still like
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Like, I remember last
Comedy
night.
nerds know, but only comedy
Well,
nerds.
remember last night we were talking about, like, who's had, like, 3 great hour specials. And I was like, well, I think Bill Burr one of those guys that's close too.
Yeah.
And some guy was like, "Who's Bill Burr?"
I couldn't believe that when he said that last night.
But it happens though.
That guy's a comic.
And but that still happens. There's
wow.
like people that don't know who Brian Regan is.
I guess
people,
if you don't if you're not in clubs, I guess there'd be no way to know or watching TV.
And I don't like. Wow. There's guys that that I don't know about or.
Yeah, when people ask me like if I'm on the radio or something or some interview, people ask me who the up and comers are, and I'm like, what's your level of knowledge? Because if you really don't know anything about comedy, then yeah, I would say go check out Bill Burr.
Right.
But like, if you knew a little bit, then I'd be like, yeah, he's not an upper comer. He's in this.
Right.
He's one of the best comics in the country.
But that is like insane to me because like in the New York circles, it was like Geraldo, Gaffigan, Louis C.K., Attell, Tom Papa. It was like the same 7 guys who are like super awesome now. Yeah. But there's still people that didn't know Geraldo,
right.
a couple years
Somebody
ago.
New has to come up.
Like, oh, he's the guy from the roast. I was like, he was funnier before then. Like, that wasn't he's not only funny on the roast. But yeah, so the comedy thing kind of helped get me. Like, I got better and better.
I was gonna say, did you get better on
the air? But then it felt like more and more like, hey, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I was like,
oh wow,
because I was like, hey, this is fun the way I want to do it, but that's not how people usually do it.
Do they keep trying to like censor you down a little bit?
Well, it was just like you can't. There's no real wiggle room. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you got to. The general manager's friend is playing in a handball tournament, so cover this handball tournament. And I'm like,
that's not journalistically what I want to, artistically what I want to get into. And we don't give a fuck.
That's sports, or like, I would have to do. There was all these other corporate things, which I could still do. I'd have to do the Buzz's Crab Fresh Catch of the Day, or the
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
So
that's
like,
so lame.
Yeah.
How'd you do that with a straight face?
I didn't.
Just, barf in your mouth?
Well, everyone thinks I'm sarcastic 99% of the time, whatever I say anyway. So even when I was trying to be sincere, my boss would be like, hey, lighten up on the sarcasm a little bit. I was like, I'm being serious. And
you're like, I am faking it. I'm faking it as hard as I can.
I'm selling it, man. But it was like, it's, all those skills, man. I mean, I can read a prompter. Like, it doesn't look like I'm reading.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes in commercials or in like low budget commercials or Silent Night Live, you can see it a lot. People's eyes just moving back and forth following that prompter.
It's a skill, man. Like that, to do that for a few years and be good at it.
Do you have to is there a secret to it, or is it just a lot of practice?
It's a lot of practice, and there's a lot of Is
it reading ahead and sort of knowing what you're going to say?
I used to be able to you could see enough of the page to just look at, how it's not complete memorization, but you look at a page, you're like, okay, I know what this kind of means, and you can regurgitate it. When you need actual scores and stuff, obviously you have to get those perfect. But if you're just the San Francisco Giants have a 3-day, or 3-game, stretch in New York or something, you just kind of, You know what you're going to say. You just look at it once, and then you're like, okay, I got this. Okay. And it is that thing. It's it's just like doing sets in comedy. 5-minute set for a TV show, that's a specific skill. 45-minute set. That's a different skill. In a club is a different skill. Yeah, similar, but 15 different. Minutes. They're all different things. So this sports cast was 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So, I could almost get to the point where, I knew when I was getting close to the end of the time or when it was going too long. It's it's really weird how your head starts to kick in. It's once you grasp that amount of time, you know what you're doing. Know what that amount of time is. Even when you're headlining, you're like, oh, this is about 45 minutes. Yeah, I know when I don't see a light or when nobody lit me, I'm always like, this feels like I'm supposed to be done right now. I don't know where this goddamn light is. Yeah. Somebody's not doing their job. And it is so weird that TV spots, like Ferguson or Letterman, those are basically the actual time in the TV producers lineups are 4 minutes and 50 seconds. That's what the sets are supposed to be. Wow. And that's what my sportscast was, and it's 4 minutes. So you're isn't that it's kind of creepy? It's so that's what I because that's what I really tried to get good at when I was doing comedy. Short sets. There were always people that were good at showcasing with those 5-minute showcase sets. And to not be a character though, right? They're because that's how I first started working. Is this guy's got really great 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was for like a long time. And it's like, all right, you got to come up with another great 10 minutes.
You're like, another?
Yeah.
Why? I already have one. What do you mean?
And that's the tough part, man. It's like, that's why, you talk about fear, and, there's still some of those guys. I think me and, like, Jimmy Dore was talking about that, those headliners that were, like, they had that day where it's like, they got the 45 minutes and they just put the pen down. They're like, all right, I'm done.
Good.
It's like, really?
Finished.
You're not going to write any more jokes?
Yeah, there are. It's so weird.
And
I guess they just got older and they stopped getting creative or something.
Or you just fear, like, something not working.
Yeah. Every time I write a joke, whenever it's like, I'm trying to write a new joke, I'm always like, I don't know how the fuck I come up with jokes. I'm not going to be able to come up with another joke.
Right.
Another bit? There's no way.
Yeah.
I'm out. But they always keep coming, I guess.
And it's scary, and you have to find those certain places where you have that creative freedom and you feel comfortable not doing well. Because, I mean, that's the tough part about L.A. It's like you do the Comedy Magic Club or the Improv, or, you might only do these clubs every couple months. So
and
it's
you
like you want to do
you
well.
sort of have to rock it out.
Yeah.
And Daniel Tosh can go down there and work out new stuff.
Right.
But it's like, at some point, you have to show me your best shit right now.
Yeah.
It's time.
I've been here for 7 years, and people still have no idea who I am. So if I happen to go off a night where somebody might want to see me.
I just started to learn that, where it's like, I know you wanted to do new stuff tonight, but there's a manager here to come see you. So scrap what you were going to do and do your fucking best shit.
Yeah.
This is one of those career sets. Just fucking do it.
And a lot of it is common sense, too. It's just like, all right, well, this is the time or place for... Especially if it's like a great crowd, you know what I mean? It's like, you wanna act like you belong here instead of just being like a selfish guy doing jokes. But I don't know, it's a fine line. You do get to that point where it's like, I'm sick of my jokes. I just want to do something new.
Yeah.
And that's why the road is good.
I was talking to Robbie Pearl about it, and all these couple of British comics who said write a new hour every year, and then they take that on the road, and it'll be like whatever, Jimmy Carr Unplugged or whatever the title will be. Take it on the road, and then the next year they come back, it's a whole new hour. I'm like, but where did they work out the new hour?
Yeah.
And he goes, it's mostly writing. It's mostly writing and working out here or there in your few nights in town.
That's still tough. I mean, you still talk to people that saw Carlin and are like, oh, I saw him do a horrible show. It's like, well, he was working on that like a play. Yeah. Like, it was like he was memorizing that whole thing. And if you saw him, like, if you see, like, I see David Sedaris a lot.
Oh, really?
And
he's coming here next weekend, right? Or the weekend after?
Yeah, I think he's doing some stuff out here.
I was gonna call to see how much those tickets were, but then I forgot the number. They said it once on the fucking radio.
And he's great to see live, but this is what he does because he still lives in Europe, so he'll come to, like, the U.S. for 30 straight days. This is what he used to do anyway. I don't know if it's, like, the exact same parameters, but...
David Sedaris will?
30 days in a row. No routing. Like,
he doesn't live in the U.S.?
No.
Why? So he get married?
Well, that's what most of his stories are about, like him living in France or...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And not knowing how to speak and being uncomfortable and
I read
fish
Naked.
out of water stuff.
It was all about him growing up, I guess.
Yeah. Me Talk Pretty One Day.
That's what I read.
That's great. That's the one about him learning French and stuff.
Then I read Naked. Okay.
Yeah. You should. It's really good.
Really?
And
Which is the one that had the... I've read this book, The Riviera. I'm remembering this now. Like 10 or 11 years ago. It was at the pool, at that shitty pool with all 85-year-olds reading. I thought maybe it was Me Talk Radio. Which is the one where he worked at a nudist colony?
That's Naked.
Okay, that's the one I read then.
You couldn't figure that out? Nudist colony and Naked?
I could have. Didn't. But if you gave me that same scenario a bunch of times, I bet a couple of those times I'd get it. But no, clearly I didn't.
And he's from, like, my hometown. He's from Binghamton area.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought he was fantastic. And he's like... He brings, like, a comics approach to writing because he's so prolific. Like, he comes to the U.S. like 30 days in a row. He'll go from, like, New York to Iowa to, like, he would play anywhere, especially back in the day. Now he gets to play, like, all great places. But if you saw him the first day of the 30 days, he would read, like, 2, maybe 3 stories and then, like, a bunch of journal entries. But then at the end of those 30 days, like, he'd have 3 or 4 of those stories, like, completely done and polished. And it's all trial and error. Yeah. And you think about, like, no writers get to have that luxury of testing. And who writes that tight? I mean, he gets more laughs than most stand-ups I see.
Really?
And it's like... And it's pretty amazing, man.
I'm always wondering, even now, it's like working out new material at the Comedy Store, even just a workout club. It's like I still feel bad. Like if somebody comes to see me, it's like that was shitty.
Right.
Like, yeah, I thought so too. But I've got to start. I got to start getting this new shit down.
Yeah, I mean, I always wonder because obviously, like Gaffigan and Brian Regan, those guys, they're doing mostly theaters.
Mm-hmm. Where do they work out? I think they work out a bit or two here or there.
Well, obviously, Gaffigan is a guy that's always working spots, but where does Regan work? Does he work stuff out? Like
he's
right
never in town
in the theater, and he lives in Vegas or something.
I think he does. If he does, then he probably has a workout spot in Vegas if he wants to try a bit.
Right.
But I think it's just like, I was going to do an hour tonight. I'll do an hour and 7, and I'll try that new bit.
Well, I just remember, because and that was the thing about, putting the pen down. It's like, I think as you get older, you just get better at it and just know your voice more.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and that's kind of the hope, because I remember when Gaffigan was getting really huge, and, he had taken a couple, I think he had told me maybe he's, hadn't done stand-up for 3 or 4 weeks, which is, a ton of time for him,
Yeah.
And he had
I haven't gone 3 or 4 weeks.
and he had a whole,
ever.
he had a sheet, and he never does this, and I think he's okay if I say this. He just had a whole thing on beanbag chairs or something, 10 minutes on beanbag chairs, and he was just kind of reading
That's
it.
the guy. He doesn't even do stories, but he has 10 to 20 minutes on something.
Yeah. He just completely
his bacon chunk.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and it's just
And it was flesh
out everything about that topic.
And this is nothing but a compliment, because he was just reading it. And it was already done. It was
reading it off a piece of paper?
Yeah. He's just reading what he had, and it was already in his voice and basically done.
Just not memorized.
Right.
Yeah.
And he hadn't tried it yet.
Uh-huh. Like he wrote it that day.
Not that day, but there's stuff that he'd been writing.
Okay.
And it's just that's my hope, is that at some point I'll get to where...
Was he getting laughs off that?
Oh, it destroyed.
Was he already famous at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was but you just wonder if you get to the point where you can just write in your voice, and you kind of, even George Carlin's I kind of know where the laughs are going to be, but then you're never 100% sure.
Positive, yeah.
But you just hope, at some point, you're all right, this is all going to kind of work. I don't know if it's going to be 100%, but at least I know that I can try this bit for a minute that I've never done before, and it'll work. And that was oh, man, well, I hope I get to that point at some stretch.
All I do is I just go up with, I like their way. I just go up with a topic that I've thought of. I'm like, hey, I sort of talk to the crowd about it.
Yeah.
And then if anyone seems interested, I keep talking about it. And if they don't, I just sort of stop.
Yeah. Well,
or I'll try to say it the next time in a funnier way. I'm like, I need a way to say that better than nothing.
But is that because you need the audience? Because I feel that way. If you tell me, hey, there's 10 people in the crowd, or hey, this is sold out. Mm-hmm. And everyone's well, they're going to get the same show. I go, no, they are not.
No, they're not.
They're going to bring out the best in me.
I came up with late night spots at the store where it was for 10 people, shitty, spread out through the room, a couple drunk. And it's I'm going to, if you do really showy bits right now, it looks foolish.
Right.
So yeah, you're way more talkative. That's how I developed a conversational style on stage. Just because you have to just talk to them.
I mean, that's the thing is with my style, it was the writing's got to be really tight, and the delivery has to be unique, because it's not high energy, it's not characters, it's not.
Yeah.
So it's so that's why I knew it would take a little bit longer, but most of the guys that I respected were just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So because there's always guys that are man, you need to be more higher energy.
Voice. Yeah, people tell you what to do. It's no, that would work for you maybe, or you think that. It's what are you talking about?
But then I have to be that every night, and I'll kill myself.
That's what you were saying yesterday with Tripoli, but you got away with that Ferguson showcase.
Yeah.
And Tripoli's come on, let's do this, in the back, and you're dude, that's...
He was you pumped, man? You pumped? It's no, we're not playing basketball.
Yeah,
that's
comedy. Not the way I get ready.
It's telling a jazz musician, you ready to rock?
Shit. No, I don't ever rock.
I'm just ready to fucking hang out, man.
Okay, so you had this... So you had this job that you're starting to do. Yeah, you had the Red Band was good at that. He used to play a buzzer.
Ding.
And I'm like, thank you, and I go back to the subject. I get it now a little bit, but so you have this job that you're increasingly finding unfulfilling.
Right. It just feels like a waste of time. It was crazy because I was I would do the 6 o'clock newscast.
Yeah.
I would cover a football game. I would just go and get a minute of highlights.
Yeah.
I would do a stand-up show.
Yeah.
And then anchor the 11 o'clock sports thing.
Where would you do a stand-up show? Like how far
Just
away?
in the Reading, they would have like
Okay.
a night somewhere in Chico.
They have one
or
everywhere,
something.
don't they?
Yeah, it's
they
crazy.
got one everywhere.
I remember like
There's some open mic at whatever city you're in at some restaurant.
well,
or
they
bar.
would have like a one night like I remember like because it's close enough to San Francisco. It'd be like I remember Todd Glass or Greg Proops or like Sue Murphy. I would see like people like that come through, and they don't remember any of this stuff. But that was when I was like, I'm the news guy introducing the
Really?
Yeah.
This introducing the comedy show?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I would do like
I've
a
seen
couple
those
bits,
guys.
but it was like, it's
You're
bad.
like, why are they here?
Yeah.
And like cross promotion, like, what do you? No one knows they're here.
So
What
that's what I mean
cross-promotion?
about like having that. Oh, you're the news guy. You're never gonna be funny. So
Yeah.
I just had to like get out of that.
And did you at that point? Did you drop the Sports Center dream?
Pretty much, because I was like I was saying about the radio thing. It's like, all right, if I make it out of Reading, maybe I go to Reno for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then maybe I go
You're like, when am I
work
supposed
my
to be
way
on
up
Sports
to
Center?
Phoenix, where I
Yeah.
was 5 years ago. And it's like, well, where does this really go? And am I going to enjoy the ride along?
getting there. Yeah.
So then at that point, it was like, and it wasn't like I was getting a ton of stand-up gigs. It was like, hey, this is pretty fun. And
Were you getting paid at all for stand-up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was getting paid. I was doing
San Fran scene was always good at like they actually made money at stand-up. But the LA scene was like you make money at your day job.
I was always good at like making money at stand-up. Like I would do like all the one-nighters, like even the stuff that people would be like, I bet you'd be completely wrong for these bar gigs. Or I was like,
You're like, fuck it, I'll take it.
I've done one of everything pretty much, like, and I really have. I've done,
What?
gay bars, black
Oh,
nights, cruises, mother of twins conventions, like VFWs in West Virginia.
Really?
Like I've done everything that you can pretty much do.
Wow.
So it's like,
Ugh.
and there always be people like, I think I told you the other night I did a show and it was me, Paul Reiser, Chris Kattan, and Earthquake. Like,
Really?
You can't get a more
Wow,
random
that's
show
very
than that.
eclectic.
It's like, hey, if people are funny, like, it's like I remember we worked in New Jersey and like I was featuring for Patrice O'Neill and like, oh, he's the O&A guy, and are you gonna be dirty enough for this guy? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna do what I do.
Yeah,
and they were
yeah.
all scared.
It
And
takes
it's like,
most people a while to realize that.
of course, it was like I did great, and the
You're like,
shows
no,
are
I'm never
fun.
the dirty guy, so why would I start
Yeah.
doing that now?
And it's like, no, both of us are funny, so this is a great show. That's all it is. So
That's like saying, like, let's say you're a team of Shaquille O'Neals, and then like all big guys and whatever, and then you're playing this team with a bunch of good shooting guards. Like, are you guys going to try to push up the pace now to compete with them? And you're like, no, we're just going to keep throwing it down low to each other.
yeah.
That's where we'll win.
And you do still see, like, I remember we did, it was like something at the Improv, and it was like a USC, like, fraternity. Like, it
Rose
was
Bowl
all,
thing?
like, football douchebags. And, like,
They have that like every year.
and, like, Dana Gould was there. Who was, like, one of my heroes, but it's like, he's a not a little bit older, but just looks like kind of a dad. And
He ain't
he's
going to
got a
relate to those
suit.
people. Those people don't relate
And it's
to
like,
him.
what is he going to do? And he did some joke about, like, I saw this hooker, her clit was so big she could have fucked me in the ass with it. And it's like, he won over the room, like, immediately.
Really?
Like, he just, like, knows. It's like, oh, this guy's fucking, obviously,
He's
he's
like,
a
I've
pro.
done enough of these
He's
places.
done everything. So don't
Yeah.
even, like.
I just open dirty. I'm fine.
Yeah. He can do he can make anybody laugh. Like, that's the lesson in that. It's like,
I do
never,
those teen tours at the Improv.
Right, yeah.
And everybody asks me, they're like, what do you do, like, all your clean stuff? I'm like, no.
No, you
Extra
do.
filthy. Like, as filthy as I ever get, I get in front of those 14-year-olds. Oh, they love it.
But it is so weird that you're still like, I wonder how this guy's gonna do. And it's like,
Yeah, when you're
oh
like-
no, he's a comedian.
They've been doing this
funny.
for 25
Yeah.
years. They're so good at it now.
Right. So you do have to kind of like, every time you feel like somebody's not giving you a shot, or like, hey, how is this gonna go? You just have to say, hey, you know what?
Trust me.
I know what I'm doing. Don't
I did. I played in Seattle for the first time. The main stage is closed now. Some bar there near the old Key Arena. Mm-hmm. And this lady was like, oh, just so you know, dirty stuff doesn't work in this place.
Right.
And even however many years ago it was, 5-6 years ago, I was like, maybe the dirty stuff that you get in this place normally doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I just do what I do, and crowds
Right.
are into it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. It's Seattle. It's not the fucking Amish country. They'll get it.
Right. Yeah, I remember there's a club in
I mean,
like
open micers are too dirty for them. Fine, they're bad because they're open micers, not because they're dirty
yeah,
anyway.
and the jokes don't end up being funny.
Yeah, like, once you get confidence in what you're doing, it's so much easier.
It's like that club in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It wants to be clean, and like they just tell everyone like, and it's basically their way of like they can tell you what jokes not to do basically, and so it's like, and it's completely wrong because it's like it's Erie, Pennsylvania. It's the most blue collar town you can get. If anybody wants a dirty comedy show, it's these fucking people that need it, and it's just like it's.
Was
the
it you telling me about
thing.
this club or Kurt Metzger, or maybe it's Tom Segura? Where it was like they went there and they went to the club owners like, why don't you like you? I looked at your lineup. I don't recognize any of the names on your lineup. And they're like, who can we book? Like tons of guys from New York that would drive here.
Right.
And she was like, look, like it was like Greg Giraldo, and like he just named a bunch of people. And the lady was like, can they work clean? And he's like, no. And she's like, oh well, then we don't need it. I'm like,
that might be the place because they're very like, oh, this guy is the biggest thing in Buffalo. And it's like, well, aim higher.
You're so close.
You can get, like, I think I worked with Rick Rockwell at that place.
Really?
And it's just like, oh, so you're either getting somebody who might be famous for 9 minutes or Screech.
That was the original Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire?
Yeah. Oh, he was so bad.
Was he?
And he did a Q&A, which is like, that's always a sign of like, all right, I'm out of jokes.
Oh, yeah. I'm out, so what else?
Anybody have any questions?
I always say that when I get a little too high on stage. And I say, any questions so far? It's just me, like, what's my next bit? I can't remember it, so I'll just do this. It'll get a laugh. Maybe someone actually asks a question. It'll be a fun moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you weren't liking it, so then you said, fuck it and quit?
I basically, I did,
wow.
I put in my notice.
By the way.
New Year's Day of 2000.
Really?
For no reason, really.
And then they were like, all right.
I was like, what were you going to say?
They were just, well, I was going to say before, but keep going, what they said.
So then, my plan was I was either going to move to LA and do stand-up and, like, go to grad school.
Yeah.
Or San
Grad school
Francisco.
for what?
I don't know. Probably teaching.
Just wanted to be in school?
Yeah. Just something that.
Now, when I said before that when did you give up the dream about SportsCenter, have you still not given up that dream?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think I'm still,
You're earning qualifications to be on that show. I mean, you're doing stand-up, like performing.
Right. Well, the thing is, like, I feel like at that point, like, I was, like, too inside sports. Like, I didn't even write a lot of jokes about sports because, like, you know what? I'm kind of too into sports right now, more than most people. But now that's what is great is people have niche things, like. So it's like
they really know boxing or something.
I'd really love to do like a freer form version of it. Obviously, you'd love to do like a sports comedy show, which Norm Macdonald's probably the closest one to kind of making that work. Or
why don't you do a podcast?
Yeah, or a podcast or a radio show. I mean, I love radio.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, Kornheiser went to Binghamton as well.
Oh, really?
And pardon the interruption. Obviously, people love that show. But I think those guys, like, I watch it because it's very informative.
Yeah.
But I think those guys think they're hilarious.
Kornheiser and Wilbon?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think those guys think that they're so funny.
Yeah.
And
Kornheiser used to do radio on WTEM in D.C., the team.
Oh, right, yeah.
570. I think it moved numbers. But it used to be so shitty, like, you could just call in. Mm-hmm. And he would get, like, you could get through.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, John, how you doing this week? And it's just like... And no one knew about it yet. He worked there just because he thought he was super funny. He was, though. He ran an entertaining show.
Yeah, he's definitely entertaining, but I don't think those guys, like, especially all the rest of those guys. I think Kornheiser is probably the funniest of those guys, but Wilbon, Levitard,
Kornheiser used to always do...
all those guys.
Wilbon was never as funny as Kornheiser. But Kornheiser used to do this thing where he also wrote every Sunday, I think, in the style section of the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. Like, he'd have his sports columns, whatever, but style section every Sunday, and he just wrote something about completely non-sports related. Mm-hmm. And it was funny. It was funny columns.
Yeah, and obviously he's got to be a great writer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing it so long. But it was that thing, even the ESPN guys were getting like, because I went
getting
through
what?
that. I'm
about
like,
PTI?
Well, no, but back then you're like watching Kenny Mayne and like all these guys coming up with their home run call or Stuart Scott waiting all day to say this one fucking thing which doesn't even fit in the highlights. from like some movie that week.
Really?
It's just like, oh, I don't want to be one of those guys, man.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
You mean the guys that aren't that funny but still trying to like
yeah,
be goofy?
that's what they do. Because I've done it. I was like, oh, I'm waiting all day to say this one line from Austin Powers.
Just to say it so you can feel fun that you say it.
And I'm funny, and it's like, no, that's you calculating it 9 hours ahead of time. Like if you want to say something off the cuff, then work on that skill, but don't try to be like the funny. I don't know. It was just like I don't want to be the goofy guy that's just corny.
Sometimes you look at them with like a veil, falls away from your eye. You can sort of see people for what they actually are, just people.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you're not like it'd be cool to be on ESPN. It's
Right.
like, no, you're a person who sits around, like you said, all day long thinking of I'm going to say this line.
Right.
And you're like, that's not fun.
And the thing is, they think that they're funny, and it's like, no, you do this, you're not that. Like, and that's the
you're
thing.
You're funny
is like,
at being a sportscaster.
Right.
You're saying, yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to be more like Kevin Nealon or Norm Macdonald, who do the Weekend Update, than the guys who are telling sports scores and trying to be funny within that mode. You know?
Yeah.
So it was just, I didn't see a way that I'd be able to develop that skill other than doing stand-up, you know?
Yeah.
Like that seemed to be the best way of like figuring out how to do that, you know? Because just doing, I felt sense. The more I did news, I was just going to be more cardboard cutout guy, just reading stuff off a prompter, you know?
Right. So you didn't even want to do that.
It wasn't.
And
really
you don't want to
fun.
be that goofy guy in SportsCenter either.
And you can't. But
you still got to say the scores.
Yeah, and
that's the main thing.
And you look at Ryan Seacrest or somebody like that who's got to interview these nobodies and uninteresting people.
Yeah, he can't be like, you're boring everybody. Come with a goddamn story. He's just got to.
I remember I did. It was like, how do I did like the opening of
else becoming just a job.
A fucking parking ramp one time, and I'm just like, all right, there's another place that people can park here, and I said it like that. And they're like, hey, you got to be excited. It's like, no, it's the opening of a park. I cannot be excited over this. If that's what you want.
But that's your job.
Yeah, and Ryan Seacrest does that, and there's other people that do that, but I was like, I can't do this. I can't make this exciting. There's no way I can not pick on that person if you send me on that story.
Yeah, when some people tell like gothy girls, they're like, smile more, people like you better. Like, no, smile more, you, April Sunshine. Like, they'll like you better. But that girl, no. She'll smile, it'll look like a horror show. Like, just, it's not, some people can be excited about that shit. Right. There's somebody out there that can be, and they should have a job like that.
Right. And
but
whenever
if you
see,
fake it, people will know the difference.
And whenever you see like Brian Williams or one of those news anchors try to be on Saturday Night Live, or like a political guy,
like you're a cheese dick and you have no idea what this is. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody who can do it. Mm-hmm. Like David Duchovny's fun on like the Larry Sanders Show.
Right. Yeah.
Like certain people, like, oh, you get this crossover, like you're cool, you get it, but not very often.
Yeah. And so that's what I kind of was like. I figured out like, oh, this is more of what I do. Like, I'm more a sarcastic kind of funny guy than, like, a guy that's, like, a trusted news source or somebody that's going to be, commanding respect from covering a political race. I still had to, I interviewed, like, Dan Quayle and, like, all these presidential people, and it's like, what am I doing
I don't care.
here?
I don't even care. Yeah, it's a weird thing when you're like, I'm asking questions because I'm supposed to ask you questions, but I don't want the answers. I don't give a fuck.
And that is the weird thing when people complain about news is like, these reporters really don't know anything.
So even the news part people,
you get a press release and a fax, and you just ask people 2 questions, and you got to make a minute story out of it.
Wow, really? And so those people, the newscast, they're really not journalists in any way.
I mean, I'm sure in the bigger markets they are a little bit, but they're still covering the stories that the producers want them to cover.
Right. So they'll pick the playlist.
Yeah.
So if the ramp story is on the docket, it's on the docket. Somebody's got to be there.
Yeah, and especially if it's a national thing, because that's what they do is, the Fox, headquarters will call all the little affiliates. They're like, hey, what's the big story today? And if there's nothing going on, they might pick some dumb story from Reading that day because it's a slow news day.
And did they ask you to take like a tone that would match? If it's some Christmas miracle, they're like, are you supposed to be like, it's amazing, Kent, we're here? Or if it's something friendly, you're supposed to be like, well, it's going to be a great sale today.
It just depends. Like there's definitely,
14
because it's
people
a style.
murdered in Chico this afternoon. as gangland violence
Yeah.
hit our streets and our schools.
And I guess the big question, will the Strangle be able to enjoy that weekend outdoors? But that's obviously
He's still at large. But will he be a tan? Let's find out.
And when the Daily Show started, of course, I'm like, well, that's what I'm doing at a real station right now.
You're just trying to make that and
so
get away with it.
So I was like, wow, I could do that. But then even the Daily Show became like everyone's kind of doing the same, like, kind of sarcastic shtick. And I was like, no, you could just really do regular news stories and make them that funny too. You know what I mean? But they've become like a political voice instead of just a
That's the problem when they start taking
show,
themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
I don't watch the Daily Show much. I don't have cable anymore, so I don't bother with it. But even before, I don't know. I liked it whenever I watched it. I just never got into it.
Yeah.
But I remember one that he had where it was talking about Sylvester Stallone was when the Olympic torch was coming down, like in Hollywood and stuff. And people were passing it off all over here. And Sylvester Stallone got to carry it on the beach or whatever. And the quote was that Jon Stewart read was something like, Stallone said, just goes to show you if no matter who you are, you could just everything's possible at this point. And Jon Stewart was like, yes, Sylvester Stallone, it's possible to run with the Olympic torch on the beach if you are Sylvester Stallone. Like, what are you talking about? But I just like the commentary on that. It was like, yeah, cool. You can do jokes on regular shit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, even the Weekend Update, when Norm did it, that was so good.
It was so good. It was so good when he did it.
And
did you try to write for his sports show?
What's that?
Did you try to write for a sports show?
No, I tried to write for that Sports Onion show. I think Norm's was already staffed up, but yeah, I would have loved. I mean, I think there's still room for that thing because, like I said, all those. I mean, there's nobody worse. Why don't they have
a guy on local news just being funny? Because he'd be terrible. They wouldn't get a really funny person. Is that it?
Well, I remember at one point, like, the local sports was almost endangered because it was like, well, ESPN is doing all the national stuff, so
nobody cares about local.
All you got to do is cover fishing tournaments or Pee Wee football or something. And, that was the other bad part about it. It was like, once a month you'll cover the Raiders, but then, like...
Yeah, you think, like, sports, cool, I get to meet all these great athletes. Like, no, there's no great athletes in the Uno championship.
Yeah.
The county Uno championship.
And it's like, and whatever qualifies for sports there, it's just like.
So this is what your show is all about? Just all your time?
I just dug up a lot of the stories that I did. I did that story about the Titanic movie. Because that's the thing that kind of, whenever I see somebody doing man on the street stuff.
Yeah.
In, the Tonight Show or something like that, I was like, that's what I did, like, every day. Like, if I didn't have a show, I would just go to the mall. And, like...
Interview people?
Yeah, it's like, hey, what are you getting for Valentine's Day? Wow. And just, like, make fun of them or make it funny somehow or...
now, I almost feel like that would be annoying people.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard to get people to talk to you, even if you're... even if you have, like, a news camera,
like,
it seems
I gotta
official.
go shopping. I don't have time for this.
Yeah,
Don't get away from me, beggar.
But then there's a certain person that wants to be
really
on TV,
wants to be on.
And those are the people that you really want to pick on anyway.
Jeff Ross does his thing on stage now at the end of his long sets where he'll do a speed roast of a real audience. Mm-hmm. And I love it so much because he says, all right, whoever wants to get picked on by me, come up. And I was like, aren't you afraid, like, who would come up?
Yeah.
He goes, the people that would get up, those are the people that I want coming up.
Right, yeah.
If you gave me a poll of people, I'm like, I don't know who to pick, but those people that stand up, like, oh, that crazy adventurous one, drunk lady, yeah, I want them coming up.
Right.
It's never the calm people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's who you want to interview on the street. Or maybe you do, I guess. Yeah, I guess it would be. The people would be more excited.
Well, but the thing is, you just want, even if you get crazy people, it's just going to be funnier. And then you get to edit. And, I mean, that was the one thing I did really like about that job was, like, everything was yours from beginning to the end. So, like, you shot it, you got to edit it,
so
you got to write it.
Wow.
So it was your thing. So it did kind of teach you how to do that skill, even though it wasn't all about comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where are you taking the show? Toronto, Montreal?
Yeah, and then I'll probably do New York at some point. I'm not sure. There's a couple of different places.
That shit's all soon, though, right?
Yeah,
Toronto,
probably
Montreal.
January, February.
You have a website?
Just on my website. It's paulhasawebsite.com.
paulhasawebsite.com? Because nobody knows how to spell Morrissey?
It's just easy. The paulmorrissey.com is a real estate agent in San Diego.
Really?
So, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, people try to buy my CD on his website just to end
Where
up
does he
with
sell
a
them? The
shitty
listings?
house in La Jolla that they can't afford.
You should come out with your next CD called the La Jolla Listings. So you can just get a shitload of business.
But yeah, it's just been it's a completely different show. So that it's been months, and it's really hard to like, you can tell stories, but just to mash it into an
to
hour.
a form.
Yeah, but the videos are all playing really great, so it's going to be a great
cool.
thing. And I obviously love to do it at some of the festivals next year. Maybe Edinburgh, Montreal, or
that'd be
something.
cool.
So
Yeah, Montreal's fun. You should go there if you can.
yeah, I haven't done that yet. I perform in Canada at least once a year, but I haven't done the Montreal festival. I've only done the HBO festival. So
It's well, they're all fun.
and you were just in Canada, right?
Uh-huh.
Did you try poutine?
I love it.
See, I won't try that shit.
What?
No way.
You gotta do it when you're in French Canada, in Montreal.
Oh man.
Yeah, get some. But okay, what if I tell you my favorite place to get poutine
I don't.
in the world? My favorite restaurant to get it.
But will it be the best?
It's amazing. They have pages of poutine recipes.
Okay.
It's called La Banquise.
Okay.
It's in Montreal. It's out of the way a little bit.
And we'll put that out to the Twitter followers too. The best poutine in.
What's your Twitter?
Mine's
address?
just Paul Morrissey.
What is it? 2 R's?
It's Morrissey, just like the singer. Morrissey.
2 R's, 2
For all
S's.
you sad teenagers out there.
And Mexicans for some reason. They
Yeah,
also
they
love
love it.
Morrissey. I never understood how that. I think it was one cool Mexican guy who didn't come out of the closet
Yeah.
until like way later, and everybody thought he was cool.
I wore a Morrissey T-shirt on Ferguson last time, and you know how they're weird about brand names, but they're just like, well, the people who know who Morrissey is will think it's cool, and the people who don't just think I'm wearing a T-shirt with my name on it.
To just
and
say
they think
Morrissey?
I'm an asshole.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, all right, fine, totally fine. That's funny. Yeah, La Banquise. You should try it. You should go there.
Banquise, all right.
You're gonna be in Montreal for like a little while.
Yeah, we.
Dude, that's the place. Especially if you're drunk. You don't drink much, huh?
Yeah, I drink a little bit.
If you're drunk, it's the place to go. It's amazing. Because here's a poutine. You've seen what it is. Potato. It's just French fries with gravy and cheese curds. But then you have varieties from there. You can have sausage in your gravy. You could have marinara sauce instead. Meat sauce.
I just felt like you pressured me into being a drunk. Like you did. Isn't that funny? You don't drink. No, I drink.
Yeah, you did. You felt like peer pressure.
Yeah,
No, I do.
It's like I can drink a beer. No, I do. I can't. We were just talking about this the other day. Like,
If you get high, it's also wonderful.
but I can't drink. Do you drink before your shows, or is
No,
it?
every once in a long while, I'll be peer pressured into like doing a shot, or I'll have a beer that I'll drink half of before. But that's it.
Yeah,
I
I always
slur too
felt
bad.
that way. That Steve Martin said it. Like he listened to a recording and he's like slurring his words.
Yeah,
And I was like, and I already feel like I talk slow enough as it is.
yeah.
Like the pacing is just where it needs to be.
You don't
So
need
if
to
it's
fuck it up.
any
Yeah,
more
once
off-kilter-
once it affects your like actual physical like skills, then it's negative.
Right,
Some people
right.
are fine when they're drunk, but if that's not you, you can't do that.
Yeah, but that's a bad routine to get into. You've seen
yeah.
those guys that have to get
4
absolutely
shots before
shit-faced
they
to
go
get.
on.
It's like, I think this is more about the drinking.
Yeah,
Doesn't
they're
seem
like, well, I need it to be funny. Like, no, you just need it.
doesn't seem like you enjoy the comedy part of this all that much.
So then you just quit and you never look back, huh?
I quit. Yeah, I put that, and it was still the thing where I kind of left to do comedy, but it was like I was kind of done with, I did all this same douchey things that everyone does, like because I still didn't make any money. Like if I was making more money, it probably would have been a harder decision to make.
Yeah.
But people still thought I was insane. They're like, "Well, you're a TV
on the
sports
way.
anchor for ABC. Why would you quit that job?"
Yeah.
And it was just hard. But
How much was it paying at this point
that's why it's still like 17 or 18 grand. So
for the year?
yeah,
Jeez.
and it was
It's
like
a giant raise from the $5 an hour for 20 hours a week.
and the clothing allowance from JCPenney.
Oh
So-
yeah.
And
oh,
the
yeah.
free
Those
haircut.
lines. So, I mean, it's
But, I
fantastic.
bet
That's
that
all
made me
we'll
learn
cover.
early on, like any job that's really great isn't going to pay a lot until you kind of
Separate yourself.
become the best at it. You know what
So
I
you
mean?
become needed, I guess. Yeah, every comic goes in going like, wow, I should be the best. And you're like, relax. You've been doing comedy for 4 years. You're
Yeah.
terrible.
Right.
You're terrible. We were all terrible. You're better than you were, yeah. But you're still really bad.
Yeah.
So enjoy a few, wins that you get, and then just wait.
And then maybe at some point you get to where you make in one night what you made your 5th year in comedy. You know what I mean? Like there's all these guys that make, you hear you make 20 grand a week or something like that. It's like, all right, that was my first 2 years in comedy.
Yeah. God, you make so little. Boris Hamilton used to do this joke at the Westwood Bruco. It's like alternative comedy open mic. I used to love it because they would shit on other comedians in general there at open mics a lot in L.A. So he was like, how about this? How about you have to quit comedy if you didn't make $7 last year? Mm-hmm. And people would all moan. They'd be like, oh. And he'd be like, is that too high a number?
Right.
Should I lower it to 4?
Yeah.
But it was just sort of felt like it stung because it was right. Like, you should make $7. If you're going to consider yourself a comic, $7 isn't hard to make. Do one gig out of town for 10.
Yeah. Well, that is the thing about, especially for me, that's tough. And because I was more like, when I kind of quit, like what happened was I went to L.A. to see if I'd like it. Yeah. And then I just wasn't there yet. And I was like, you know what, I'll move back. I ended up moving back with my parents, and I was like substitute teaching.
Yeah,
and I did
everybody's way.
And I did that
test,
thing.
The CBS test?
Well, this was in New York, so it was just like my high school. So it was like I was still subbing for like the teachers that I had, which is even more depressing.
That's so demeaning.
But it was like I read that thing like Mitch Hedberg and that Chard Hogan guy, like they just got a van and drove around for like 2 months, and they just called for guest sets.
Really?
And so that's
was he
what
already
I did.
Rich by then?
No, this is like when they first left.
Who's
like,
Chard Hogan?
He was like a buddy of his that
he came up with?
I don't think I don't know how much comedy he does. I just saw him at the Ventura.
But like they came up together or something? Or they just
they were just like buddies, and there was that other girl that was like kind of his girlfriend and manager at that point, and she would like call ahead to see if they could get one or the other guest
Lynn
sets.
Showcroft?
No, her name was like Jana or something like that. And so that's what I did. Like I went from like the Columbus Funny Bone to Nashville to
just doing guest spots,
Florida.
saying hi.
Yeah, just did guest spots.
That was always the thing. They were like, if you go into a place, it's way better than sending a tape because you're a live person.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
So like I did get like a bunch of work out of it, and then later that year I got into NYU like graduate school, and I ended up moving to New York City the week before September 11th of 2001.
Oh, that's a great time.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you waited a month, prices
all
would have been so
timing.
low. Prices would have been way lower.
Yeah, and then the rest is history. It's all in the vault, as George Michael would say. Okay.
It's like, all right, thank you, everybody.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody.
That's Paul Morrissey. Okay.
And that's Ari.
Okay, goodbye. All right, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed. The third part of our conversation, which we just got into talking about Catholicism and my probably never going to happen move to New York. I'll release that on Friday. Not as a full episode, but this is an extra feature. But it was a fun conversation. And if you're Catholic and you get offended by anti-Catholic sentiment, then please do not listen to that because you will be offended because it's just pure anti-Catholic sentiment. All right, everybody. Thank you. Please tell a friend if you enjoy this. And I'll see you in 2 days on Friday. Bye.